Hello Internet, welcome to Daily Codes. In this video, we are going to set up Airflow in Docker. And this is because one of our friends called DubTube said that they had trouble setting up Airflow in Docker. So on my desktop here, I have a folder called Airflow, and I have opened up a terminal and moved into that folder. We can list and see that there is nothing inside that folder. Then we can go to Airflow documentation and go through how to install Airflow or running Airflow in Docker. But there are some things that we need to know before we use Airflow in Docker, mostly security issues or setting up issues. So here we have a question. This procedure can be useful for learning and exploration. However, adapting it for real use in real-world situation can be complicated. Making changes to this procedure will require specialized expertise in Docker and Docker Compose, and Airflow community may not be able to help you. So installing Airflow in Docker is kind of risky because you may be alone. I am also not so conversant with Docker, so I think I may also not be of a good help, but for learning purposes and experimentation, we are going to use this documentation to install Airflow in Docker. So here they're saying that before you begin, this procedure assumes familiarity with Docker and Docker Compose. If you haven't worked with these tools before, you should take a moment to run through the Docker Quick Start. So that means that if you're not comfortable with Docker, you should take a moment and go and learn about Docker. So what do we need? We need to install Docker Community Edition on your workstation. I already have Docker installed on my computer. Then you need to install Docker Compose, the newest version or version 1.29.1. I also have Docker Compose installed on my computer. Then we have a tip here. The default amount of memory available for Docker on Mac, I am using Mac, so if you're not using Mac, then that is fine. They're saying that the default amount of memory available for Docker on Mac is often not enough to get Airflow up and running. If enough memory is not allocated, it might lead to web server continuously restarting. You should allocate at least 4 GB memory for Docker engine, ideally 8 GB. So on my, where do I get this? I get it here on the settings of Docker. We can go to resources. We can see that I am giving Docker 4 CPUs from my PC. The memory that is going to be using is 8.25 GB. Then the swap memory is around 1.5 GB. Then the amount of disk space that it will use will be around 59.6 GB. So that is fine. That is the setup for Docker itself. Then the next thing we're going to do is to fetch already written Docker Compose file. If you have curl on your computer, you could just copy this command and paste it on your terminal, then run. I'll give the link to this documentation on the description of this video. If you cannot fetch this file, you could copy just the link to this file here. If you don't have curl, I'll just copy this and I paste it here. There is a quote I should remove. So you'll just need to download this file into your working directory. For our case, our working directory is Airflow. So just right click, save as, and then you save it into your working directory if you don't have curl. But since I have curl, you just copy this command and then paste it here and it will run. So this file contains several service definitions. We could open our folder in VS Code. So we have several services that are defined here. They're saying that there is Airflow scheduler service. We could find it. Let me just copy and then I use this name to find the definition of this service. So we have Airflow scheduler here that inherits from Airflow common. Then this is the definition of the scheduler. Then we have Airflow web server definition. So we can search for that also. And the definition is here. The web server will be running on port 8080. So the mapping from the port in Docker to the port on our machine is from 8080 to 80. It will be running in Docker at port 8080 and in our machine at port 8080. And this is the link that we can access web server from. And if you want to see the health also, you just put /. Then we have Airflow worker. The Airflow worker will be helping to execute the scheduler. It's also defined there. The one that I'm very interested in is Airflow init, because this is what will help us to set up Airflow with Docker. So there are several. Let's go to the definition here. So the Airflow init is here. There is a command, a bash command that will run, and this will help set up Airflow. An important thing is that the username here for Airflow will be Airflow, and then the password is also here. I could change the username here to Dali, and then the password to codes. You can also see that the security here is not so tight because the password here is in plain text. So that means that you're not supposed to like push this to repo or somewhere where someone could see the secrets of your Airflow. Then we have a Postgres database. So let's look at Postgres definition. Should be somewhere here. Yeah, we have a service here, Postgres. It's using a Docker image of Postgres version 13. We can also see that the user for Postgres is Airflow, the password for Postgres is Airflow, and the database for Postgres is Airflow, all in plain text here. That's why I'm saying that it is not so secure, and I think that is also one of the reasons why they don't recommend this to be in production. We can also see some settings for the Airflow common up here where the SQL Alchemy connection is defined here, as we saw in the previous videos. And we can see the user is here, the password is here, and the database is here. We can also see the load examples here is going to be true. So we're going to see examples instead of seeing our own DAGs that we are going to create. So let's continue with the documentation. The next thing we need to do is to create these folders here. So DAGs, logs, and config. So here, before starting Airflow for the first time, you need to prepare your environment. You create necessary files, directories, and initialize the database. So that's what we're going to do now. So the first thing we're going to do is to create these folders. They are necessary and they are shared between your local machine and the Docker containers. Then we also need to create a .m file. So this .m file is going to have the user ID. We can open it here and see it only contains the Airflow user ID. Then here we're saying that all operating systems need to run database migration and create the first user account. To do this, you need to run Docker Compose app, Airflow init. So it's going to run the first service that we looked at here, which was Airflow init. And that is a worker here, Airflow init, and it's going to run this command that I showed you. So let's copy this and then we run it here in our machine. So it's complete and it's saying that Dali already exists in the DB. Oh, so this happens because I already ran init some time back when I was testing, but it's going to create your user with the role of admin. So let's continue. So now that the user is created, we are going to access the user. Here they're saying that the account created has a login of Airflow and the password of Airflow, but we changed ours. Our login is Dali, and then the password is codes. So now we can run all the services that are in the Docker Compose file by this command of Docker Compose app. Then we are going to access our Airflow web server or the Airflow UI through the link, and the link is somewhere here. Yeah. So let's copy this and paste it here. Right, so we know that our username is Dali and the password is codes. And then we sign in. Voila. So now we have access to Airflow, and we have successfully installed Airflow on Docker, and it's running in Docker. We could try to look into the services that are running now. We could run Docker. Let me make this bigger. Docker PS. This is going to show us all the services that are running currently. So here we can see that we are running scheduler, we are running worker, web server, and so forth. We can also see them in the Docker UI. Let me cancel this. You can see them here. These are the services that are running, the ones that are in green. We could also go into one of the services, try to log into one of the services. I would want to log into scheduler. So I'm going to copy the ID for scheduler. I'm sorry, I'm making this smaller so that I can get the scheduler, the container ID for the scheduler. I'm going to copy this, then make it bigger back. So Docker execute, that is exec. Then I want to interact with the terminal, and then the ID of the container. Then I want to use bash. And I am inside it now. You can see here I'm in opt Airflow. Then I can list everything inside here, and just like the way we saw in the previous video, we have the files that are necessary for Docker, and we also have the folders that we created on our local machine are also created in containers. So we could also try to cut this and see Airflow config, and it will show you all the configurations. The next thing I'm going to do, let me just exit this. The next thing I'm going to do is to remove these examples, because we said load examples equals to true. So I'll go into this compose file at the beginning here, where we say load examples. I'm going to put this as false. Then I'm going to do Docker compose down. I just hit Control C to stop that process from running. I'm going to do Docker compose down, then Docker compose up. So I think it has gone up. Let's try to refresh this. It's still not yet up. Let's refresh again. Yeah, it's up. Let's log in. Dali codes. Login. All the DAGs are not there. Let me maximize this. We can see that all the DAGs are not there, but it's showing that we have like 53 paused DAGs. I think this is just a bug for Airflow, but all the DAGs are not there. So this is how you install Airflow in Docker. It's kind of just following the documentation and knowing that this is just experimental. You can experiment with it, but it is not advisable to use it in production. What is advised to use in production is Kubernetes. We shall see how to install Airflow in Kubernetes towards the end of this tutorial series. So if this has been helpful to you, please like the video, subscribe if you have not. Until the next video where we're going to be looking at the UI for Airflow, take care.